I'm pulling it up right now,
Just going back.
and it's
Ready? It's time to call the Ferrysburg City Council meeting for April 1st, 2024 to order. Amber, could you call roll, please?
Councilmember Montgomery, Councilmember Sias,
Here.
Councilmember Murdoch,
Here.
Councilmember Kate,
Here.
Councilmember DeWitt,
Here.
Councilmember Sturley,
Here.
Mayor Carlson.
Here.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I would make a motion to excuse Mr. Monk.
Support. Very good. Motion and support on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none. Amber, can you call roll, please?
Councilmember Sias,
Yay.
Councilmember Sturley,
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Kate,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes. Could move on, agenda item number 3, invocation by Councilmember Bill Kate, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm going to ask your patience. My voice isn't very strong right now. Gracious God, we thank you so much for the blessings of the day now past, and we ask your blessings of patience, wisdom, and guidance as we endeavor to administer your gift of government. Thank you for all you do for us, and ask your blessings on us this name we ask it.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you all. Now we've reached the time for public comments. This time on the agenda is for any citizen to direct brief comments or questions to the city council. They can be on agenda items or anything else. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do you have any comments from the public? If you could state your name and address, please. Wonderful.
I live in Denison, Michigan. I am running for county prosecutor here in Ottawa County. I'm endorsed by Steve Kemker, our former sheriff, Gary Rosema, our current prosecutor, Lee Fisher, and our former prosecutor, Ronald Frank. I am your chief prosecutor, serving in my 23rd year here as a prosecutor in Ottawa County. A little bit about myself. My husband and I have been married for 21 years now, where we've resided here in Ottawa County. Raising our 4 now teenagers, we have 2 sets of twins. So 3 daughters, 1 son, 2 that attend Grand Valley as freshmen. Our daughters, 1 going to nursing, 1 thinking about law, and our 15-year-old boy girls are freshmen at Hudsonville. I've got my parents live in Grand Haven Township. My sister-in-law owns a business in Lake. We have connections. I have a strong military family. I come from 3 generations of officers. My grandfather was a World War II vet. My father, Vietnam, and my brother graduated in the top 1% class of West Point. So when I see people come in with their Navy hat on, I find that to be extremely important to me and my upbringing, and I've tried to instill the same values in them. So prosecutors, what do we do? If you're lucky, you don't know, because you're either not a victim or you haven't been charged with any crime. So good for you. But you've all probably gotten a speeding ticket. All probably been a witness or heard of somebody in your community that's been victimized by crime here in Ottawa. And that's unfortunate. But what we do and the 37 staff we have at the prosecutor's office here in the county are experienced and dedicated. We have a strong victim advocacy program with 5 advocates that work very closely with our prosecutors to ensure that victim advocacy, make sure that they have a voice and that they're heard. We hold criminals responsible to the level they need to be. That's important. That experience that we have, that I've brought with us, along with our other prosecutors, help us create a fair and just here in whether it's a speeding ticket all the way up to a homicide case, one of which I currently have on my docket. Very busy. We all are. We make sure that we're taking. We have a very close relationship with law enforcement. With me, I have our last chief of police of the Hudsonville City and former retired sergeant of the Ottauquan Sheriff's Department here in support, just to show how close we work with law enforcement and have. We have a vulnerable adult abuse committee that I started here in Ottawa County. We've always had the Children's Advocacy Center, our very young victims. I helped bring one for our vulnerable adults in our community, a growing population that we have here in Ottawa, and I think it's important to give that attention to those citizens here in Ottawa County. So that's very important to make sure that we're taking vulnerable adults that are either victims of abuse or financial abuse. So I am asking that you be researched, look up my information, educate yourself on your candidates for the August 6th primary, and hopefully find that I am who you want as your next prosecutor, and vote on August 6th. I'm in your service.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone have any questions for Sarah at all? Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate your well-worded elevator speech. That's very good. Any other public comments? Seeing none, let's move on. Agenda item 6A, consideration for approval of the consent agenda. Approve the March 18th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes as revised, which were all on our dais tonight.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
So we're approving the revised minutes?
That is correct. I would entertain a motion and support.
I'll make a motion, Your Honor.
Support.
Good deal. Any comments at all? Okay, seeing none, Amber?
Councilmember Sturley,
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Kate,
Yes.
Councilmember Sias,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Very good. Moving on, new business, item 7A, discussion and take action if appropriate to approve a resolution authorizing submission of the .2500 mil Tri-Cities Historical Museum renewal proposal to the voters on the August 6th ballot. And this would be a $250,000 renewal for the Historical Museum. Can I entertain a motion and support so we
Your Honor, I would make a motion, we approve this.
Okay.
Support.
Very good. Any discussion regarding this at all? Seeing none. Yes,
Yeah.
Craig.
We have the executive director here. I don't know if she wants to say a few words.
Oh,
Evening, Mayor and Council. Although I don't have a formal presentation to offer you this evening, I am report of the ballot initiative agenda and also available to village. As was mentioned, it is a straight-through village. It is a of the passed by the voters of Ferrisburgh 6 years ago. It is renewal for a 6-year term to support operations of the museum, that of our community archive and museum.
anyone have any questions? I have a couple of comments real quick.
Just a comment.
Yes.
You had my support with the 60 Years of City exhibit.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome.
Thank you. It's our pleasure to do it.
Anyone else have anything? Okay. I had a couple things real quick. I would give you a ditto for Councilman Kate's comment about the 60th anniversary of Ferrisburgh. That was great. I attended the
The roundtable discussion, yep.
Yes, and that, not the round, I was out of town for the roundtable discussion, but I was here where you were picking up artifacts. And
Oh, the
citizens
history
could come in
harvest.
for that.
Yes.
That was a great thing. One of the things I did when I was here during that event was I had bought a couple T-shirts, and I'd asked if we could buy more.
Oh, the Weedy Ferrisburgh in it?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, We are out of them, and
Okay,
we have
but
them
can they
spread.
be reordered? Could I place an order and get some? Okay, very good, I'll be in touch. Fantastic job.
Oh,
We
thank you.
appreciate the focus on Ferrisburg. Okay, anybody else have anything else? Take a vote. Okay, motion and support on the floor, Amber?
Councilmember Murdoch,
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Kate,
Excuse me. Yes.
Councilmember Sias,
Yes.
Councilmember Sturley,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Amber. Moving on to 7B, discussion and take action if appropriate to approve the Fifth Amendment to the license agreement between Antia USA Inc. and the City of Ferrisburg, and to permit a restrictive covenant being placed on parcel number 70-03-16-451-001, commonly known as 110 Pine Street, William Ferry Park. Greg, do you want to fill us in on this, please?
Sure. So years back, there was a spill of fuel at Dockside Mobile, which migrates towards the lake. So after that spill, State of Michigan Department of Environment and Quality back then asked that wells be put in at William Ferry Park to monitor the groundwater flow to make sure that any spill didn't get into the lake. Over the years, a couple extra wells have been installed. City Council has approved that on a 5-year rotation to leave those wells in there so that the groundwater can be monitored. So 5 years back, they asked for another renewal, and at that time, they asked for a restricted covenant on the property. A restricted covenant would prevent any groundwater being used in that park for drinking. And at that time, council decided to wait till 2024 till it was renewed again. And so that time came, and it's on council's plate today to decide whether to place a restricted covenant on that property. There's some documents in your packet that from the state that indicated they had no concerns with the restricted covenant on it. If that restricted covenant is placed on there, Dockside will probably submit a report to the state to ask to have a closure on that. If the state approves that, then the monitoring wells will be pulled out. If the state doesn't approve that closure agreement, then the monitoring wells will stay in there for another 5 years, and the city council will revisit it in 2029.
So the way I was reading the notes in our packet, the restrictive covenant is essentially our exit strategy to be able to eventually remove the monitoring wells or deactivate them, is that correct?
It's like a strategy for the consultant company. The city doesn't have any concern with monitoring wells in there. They do no harm, they're not noticeable. They go in there a couple times a year and test them and pull groundwater out for samples. So, we want to work with the state so that the groundwater doesn't get to the lake. That was the city's main concern back then. So
Anyone have-
leaving them in there so they can be monitored is no concern of the city.
Okay. Anyone have any comments?
Oh, go ahead. I know it's a draft, but the draft amendment is dated for 2023.
Right, so we changed the draft on that. It should say, the first line should say 2024.
Right.
And then the second sentence on the agreement, last paragraph, it should say a period of 5 years.
Your Honor, Greg, I'm reading something here about a closure report from Paul Knorr.
Correct.
Elaborate on that, would you?
So he's open to the idea of having a closure on that property, monitoring the wells. So there's still got some samples in there. You see some red lines in there still, so some of that stuff is still kind of high. But they indicated that it's not migrating towards the lake any longer. And the restricted covenant would not be on the entire park, would be on that one sheet in your packet that was just the red. The red area would be the restricted covenant.
So I guess my question is Eagle pursuing a closure on this, or is this something that's a possibility?
It's a possibility. Not in a group is the company that is overseeing the sampling and submitting the reports to the state. So they work with they're hired by Dockside. They're doing the sampling. And if the restricted covenant's put on there, their goal is to get a closure report to the state so they can close out this case.
So we need to renew this to move forward with the closure.
We need to renew the license agreement for 5 more years. And then it's up to city council whether to include the restricted covenant in that.
So what's the downside to the restricted covenant?
The property is a park. It will never be used for anything by a park. If it was a residential property, no one could drop a well in it.
Okay, we have city water and all the drinking fountains and such right over there, correct?
Correct. That's all I'm saying.
So as far as groundwater contamination for the park use, it's immaterial.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything? Oh,
There's
no
no motion yet.
motion on the floor. I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion, we
Very
approve
good.
the monitoring wells.
Support.
Thank you. Member,
Councilmember DeWitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Cape,
Yes.
Councilmember Sias,
Yes.
Councilmember Sturley,
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
yes,
Motion passed.
very good. Moving forward to item, yes, sir.
Craig, if I may, on a letter from Aetna Group, it says, this is receipt of the third amendment to license agreement, and on our, agenda, it says the fifth amendment to license agreement. Is there a typo there, or
Yeah, it's the 5th agreement.
it is the fifth? Okay,
Yeah.
that's all you're,
Okay, very good.
The 3rd agreement was the 5 years ago. And then 2 years later, we did the 4th amendment to allow 2 more wells in there.
okay, so we changed.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, okay, to 7D, or excuse me, 7C, discussion and take action if appropriate to approve a proposal from Pittman Asphalt Maintenance, $47,600 for overband crack sealing.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to, make a motion to approve $47,600 to Pittman Asphalt for crack sealing.
Support.
Good. Motion and support on the floor. Any discussion regarding this? And we did receive an email today from Councilman Montgomery regarding this.
That's correct.
Yeah, he was opposed to doing the 47,000 because it was over our $35,000 budget.
Right, we included $35,000 for this work in the 23-24 city budget. When we put this out for bid, we calculated the length of the streets based on some numbers we got from the last time we had crack sealing done. And we thought we'd be pretty close to $35,000. It came in a little bit higher than that. The city budget is tracking well in the street departments. It can handle the extra $8,000 or $10,000. Otherwise, if city council wants to stay with their $35,000, we'll take out the 174th Avenue project and include that in the fall and do that in the fall. If we did that, it would bring it down to, the bid would be $38,250. And then in that bid packet, North Shore states the private section for $38,25 would be paid by the association. So the cost of the city would be $34,425.
Okay.
And then we would just do the 174th in the fall.
Your Honor. Craig, so I guess what I'm hearing is the budget can handle it.
Yeah, because the bid is 47.6, and then North Shore City says 38.25. So the city cost is down to 43,775, which is about $9,000 more than what we have budgeted. But the $9,000 can be handled by the street department.
There is money in the street department to do this?
And we're gonna put money in the next year budget, 24-25. We already got money in there to do some more crack sealing. So pushing the 174th down to the fall is not gonna hurt anything.
Anyone else have any comments?
So is the proposal then that we're gonna vote on, including 174th or not including?
Councilmember Sides made a motion to include the whole package.
Okay, And the memo from Matt Schindelbeck that outlines removing 174th, for us to approve that plan, there'd have to be another motion then after the first one's addressed, is that right?
Correct. Motion is amended.
Your Honor, I amend my motion to, remove, what was it, 174? Okay, I'll amend my motion.
Is there support for that?
I'll support.
So motion and support for an amendment. Okay.
Supported.
Okay.
Craig, could you give us the revised figure then? We're looking at,
So we're gonna approve a bid for $38,250.
$38,250.
Correct.
And that's with nothing being done on 174th.
Not till the fall.
Any other comments from anyone? Seeing none, Amber, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember DeWitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Kate?
Yes.
Councilmember Sias?
Yes.
Councilmember Sturley?
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch? Yes. Mayor Carlson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Very good. Moving on to agenda item 7D, the work session, the 2024 City Council goals. Craig?
I just had a couple questions on the goals as we're working on the budget. We want to make sure we got funds in there to get the goals accomplished. On the first column, fiscal responsibility, it says complete a comprehensive benchmarking analysis of salaries for city employees. Is that something that you want staff to do, or you want that hired out by a consultant? We had a wage study done back in 22. And since that time, that wage study has been outdated, but we got some comparable numbers to some of the communities nearby, so I don't know what city council was kind of looking for in that.
When you say comparable figures, how recent are the comparable figures
For this year,
for this year?
coming up 24, 25.
It's council's pleasure. Anyone have any opinions? Yes.
Craig, is staff comfortable taking this on? Like versus a consultant?
I think if we got comparables to our neighboring communities, staff would be satisfied with that.
That'd be fair and equitable.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll move in that direction. The rest of that column, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Moving on to the second column, infrastructure and economic development. We have in there, develop a city infrastructure prioritization plan and funding plan. We have that done for the water department and sewer department. We have a capital improvement plan. The Public Works Department has put together a list of prioritized streets that they need to be taken care of. I'm not sure what else, anything else you're looking for in there?
Anyone feel free to speak up?
Sure. So for me, the way I see that is kind of how it's maybe an examination of how Ferrisburg dealing with villages. I've personally had some discussion with people on this council about potentially exploring a forever millage. And so I think that's kind of what I had in mind. But I think this may be one of my goals. Basically exploring alternate funding methods for our city government outside of how we're operating now.
Okay.
Jake, are you, go ahead. Okay. Are you thinking of something above and beyond the motor pool?
Well, so for example, we
Is it-
have the bike path millage coming up. That's going to be done or up for renewal.
It's done. We're not going to levy it this year.
So what's been done with other municipalities is they've taken these millages that have come up for renewal and they've been able to roll them up into a forever millage, where that way every time that these millages are up, they're not up for a vote for renewal. It makes planning for the city a lot easier. They're able to, the revenue is a lot more reliable. One thing that we talk about a lot is, one thing that you can kind of play off this also is it makes the job of the city manager easier as well. And we talk about continuity with that position. Craig isn't going to be our city manager forever. We want to get the pay up to snuff, and we want our city finances to be in best order possible to make that job attractive as well. And a forever millage gives us a lot of options from a financial perspective in the city. So that's what I kind of had in mind.
John?
Yes, sir.
Could you elaborate on that, Jake, as far as, what are we gonna get it from forever millage for?
I can't really elaborate on it because right now it's a concept. I don't have any specific to give you. What basically a forever millage does is that it allows for the revenue within the city to be more reliable. It's not every millage doesn't have to be approved as needed. It's more long-term planning. So for every piece of business that requires a millage, it doesn't require an act of council for that to be voted on. Now, I'm no forever millage authority here. I'm not in any position to answer a lot of questions about it.
Okay.
It's more of a concept than anything. Grand Haven has done it. And that's kind of the model that I had kind of envisioned. I've talked to people that are involved in Grand Haven government, and that's the general gist of the benefit of it, is that it's a more reliable form of revenue for the city government.
Greg, could you answer a question? Grand Haven has that forever millage. That's for streets or sewer or what is included in the millage?
I'm not sure exactly. I can get that information though.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, but I'd definitely like to get more information. Just what, if we're going to roll the bike path millage, we're probably going to have a quarter mill or whatever for the maintenance, and equipment millage into a forever millage. That would make some kind of sense. As far as beyond that, I don't know what all they included in there. I believe, I can't swear to it, but I think Grand Haven is city water and sewer, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe some streets in there.
I think so, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's water and sewer mains.
Could you investigate that a little further for us, Craig?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Craig, do you have some comments on that?
Nope. I got enough information. I'll get to work on and get some more information on doing that.
Okay.
Moving on, that same column, security funding for Smiths Bridge, self-explanatory. Collaboration with neighboring municipalities. I'm not sure if there was some specific topics you wanted to talk about. I know we do it with the lift stations in the city, especially at William Ferry Park. We partner with Spring Township on improvements there. We have the sewer authority, we have NOWS, we have Harbor Transit. We work with the Ottawa County Sheriff for police services. Is there some other direction you want to look at?
Go ahead.
I believe you mentioned when we discussed this, Rich, about trying to get together on a semi-regular basis with maybe members of neighboring municipalities for like a breakfast or some sort of casual meeting.
That's correct.
I think that would kind of fit the description of what we're talking about here.
Mhm.
It's more about initiating some kind of relationship. Maybe that starts with, a quarterly breakfast.
John?
Okay. Yes.
Years ago, I don't remember how long ago, but we did have a breakfast get together like on a Saturday every 3 months or every 6 months with elected officials from Spring Lake and Grand Haven. Why that was ever stopped, I don't know, but that was 20-some years ago. Probably before your time, Craig. I don't recall that, but I think still was the factor pushing that. There still. That was, like you say, invaluable to see problems we have, problems they have, problems we can work on together. I think that would be something that maybe the mayor could initiate, and like maybe it don't have to be real regular, like every 3 months, 6 months, whatever. But I think it'd be a good idea to do that.
Well, right after the election, I had sat down with the city manager, and that was one of the things I had mentioned was getting together with other local elected officials and that would be important to establish some dialogue, whether it's monthly or quarterly or whatever. And certainly I like the idea of doing it with the bodies. Just so
Yeah, I wonder if it's something that we could do like, Harbor Transit does, meeting in Grand, Ferrisburg, coffee and donuts, nothing major, not a major expense to the city, but we could rotate the meeting to different municipalities. Don't know if we need to get Grand Haven Township involved. You know, Grand Haven City, Spring Lake Township, Ferrisburg. Grand Haven Township, there's not a whole lot we're gonna collaborate on with,
yes.
other than,
And we could invite
Good
them. They
thought.
might want a donut.
excuse me?
They might want a donut. Grand Haven County.
Good thought. That's a good thought. Yes, sir.
One thing I would add to this is, I'd like to see council members start taking more advantage of the organizations that we have in the Tri-Cities area, especially like the chamber. I believe every quarter they do have a breakfast with business owners, and a lot of times a lot of elected officials and city staff are present. So that's another way to reach out. I think a lot of these organizations already kind of fit that purpose, but it doesn't seem like a lot of council members really take advantage of that. So something I'd like to mention.
Greg, I get emails as mayor about Chamber of Commerce events. Are city council members included in that as well?
Yes,
Well, they certainly are free to go. We're members of the chamber,
correct.
correct? Certainly welcome to go. Would encourage everyone to do that. Anyone else have any? Greg?
Next on that column, the last item, enhance the business environment and attract new businesses. Just want to look for a little direction on that. Do you want to get the city planner involved in that? Do you want to do like the economic development task force that meet quarterly, or just kind of looking for direction on that?
So I'll speak on this a little bit. I think this is one of mine as well. I had a citizen mention something to me about a sign ordinance in Ferrisburg that said that suggested that maybe the sign ordinance prohibited their business from seeing their full potential. So that gave me the idea to take a look at some of the ordinances that we have in the city to see if they're restrictive of commerce in the city. If there's anything that we can do as a city council to take a look at them, modify them, and make them more pro-business.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I believe that's something that the Economic Task Force looked into when they were in session, and it's something also that the Planning Commission, that we recommended to the Planning Commission. Wasn't that also on the master plan, or was that not?
The planning commission does a master plan.
Yeah, oh, okay, I thought the Planning Commission had included that in their master plan, the report.
No, the master plan is required to be done, updated every 5 years by the planning commission.
Yeah, okay. Just on the new master plan we just created though, wasn't that part of that or not?
No.
Okay, I know that was recommended from the Economic Task Force to the Planning Commission. So I was just curious where they were at.
To review the sign ordinance.
Yeah, to
Okay.
review the sign, so, yeah. Another thing I'd like to say about that, the Economic Task Force was kind of set up to do just this, enhance business work one-on-one with the community, and kind of reach out to other communities and see how they're doing, and what they're doing to bring in businesses and promote business owners to maybe think of Ferrisburg as a place to come. And so I think with eliminating the Economic Task Force, we've done a disservice to this goal. And so that's something I'd like to discuss further.
As far as eliminating the Economic Development Task Force, that was never meant to be a permanent body. You voted to eliminate the Economic Development Task Force. You were one of the 7 people on this body that voted to eliminate it, sunset it.
I disagree with that. I believe that one of the recommendations from the Economic Task Force to the Planning Commission was to merge the Economic Task Force and the Brownfield together, and I believe that this council approved that recommendation. And we also set out, started accepting applications for that committee, and it's mantled, so.
We accepted, we're accepting applications for what, a combined?
Yeah, for the combined, yep. And
Count-
then we also, I believe that there was a chairperson in place and a co-chair, and they're working, creating bylaws and. Yeah, so I'm just a little concerned about it, and I think that this goal is specifically targeted towards the Economic Task Force and what they would do. So I feel it's a disservice to dismantle that, and I'd like to, discuss that further.
Okay. I'm sure you want to say something. Give somebody else a shot. You guys have anything to comment on?
I served on the Economic Development Task Force when it was first reformed. And Councilman Sias and I traded jobs because of his schedule. And while I was on it, we had an open house. Existing business. One business showed up. Say that to say when you're fighting apathy, it's really hard to make any progress. I don't know what we do with this, how we enhance the business environment and attract new businesses when the existing businesses don't really want to talk.
Anyone else? Jake?
So I think it's important that we kind of lay out where we're at with this Economic Development Task Force. I feel like that there's confusion around it. The Economic Development Task Force was created as a temporary task force. It was never meant to be permanent. Everybody that was a member of City Council that's up here right now voted to sunset that task force. In that report that Council adopted, there was a recommendation for Brownfield and a new Economic Development Board to merge. That was over 1 year ago. I joined City Council and became the liaison of Brownfield, which was also supposed to be operating as an Economic Development Board. When I joined Council and acted as their liaison, I discovered they had no bylaws. They were acting out of purview. The people that applied for those positions applied for open Brownfield Redevelopment Authority positions. There was no label on it that said there was Economic Development Task Force. There was only the bylaws that had been previously adopted by City Council as the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Now, if as a council, we would like an Economic Development Advisory Board, we need a set of bylaws put in front of us for us to either approve or not approve. Until then, there is no Economic Development Advisory Board. Period.
Your Honor, without an Economic Advisory Board, how will bylaws be created?
Brownfield was tasked over a year ago with creating those bylaws to present to City Council.
It was my understanding they were working on it, and then the rug was pulled from underneath them. And that's my understanding. I did not serve on that committee, so I don't really know the ins and outs and what was being done. But, I've just heard different things, and that's why I think it's important for transparency to have a discussion about this and explain to council why that decision was made. And I understand what you're saying, Jake, but at the same time, just because they weren't creating bylaws and they weren't far along in the process as you think they should have been, that's no reason to dismantle them. Why not encourage them to move faster and get the bylaws done so council could approve them and move forward?
So I don't think that this Economic Advisory Board has been dismantled because it never existed. For it to be dismantled, it would have to exist. We haven't been presented any bylaws. From my research, they tabled creating bylaws 3 times over the past year. They haven't undertook the task. And without the bylaws, they're operating outside of their purview. Someone has to create those bylaws, and City Council has to pass them. in order for them to act in a role as a economic advisory board. That's just how process works.
I can, and if they did table that, you're right, Jake. I would agree with you. Like I said, I don't serve on that committee. I just hearing different things, and that's why I think, you know, if that's what was happening, then if they were pushing it down, you know, tabling it and keep pushing it down the road, then you're right. Then something had to happen.
I'm certainly willing to consider the formation of an economic development advisory board, but I haven't had anything in front of me as a councilman to consider. So in order for me to make a decision on that, I have to have an action to say yes or no on. And right now, we don't have that.
Your Honor, I think we should put this on a work session, discuss it. I think that brownfield and economic development kind of go hand in hand. I think it's definitely worth putting on a work session discussing. As far as the bylaws, I don't know nothing about that. I think that it's a situation where they kind of mesh together to go forward with development at Ferrisburgh.
Can I ask you a question, Mike?
Sure.
How do you see brownfield and economic meshing together? We haven't had a brownfield project in the city of Ferrisburgh in our history.
We just proved the entire city as a brownfield.
No, we didn't. We approved it as a redevelopment.
And we just, last meeting, then we approved the entire city as a brownfield, Craig?
Back in 20 years ago, the entire city was designated as a brownfield.
Okay.
So that way, that applied to anywhere in the city. Brownfield designation.
So what did we just pass for Pine Street?
Commercial redevelopment.
And part of that was acknowledging that the entire city is a brownfield, correct?
No. That would designate or allow any business that was owned properly to be able to obtain a liquor license through the state.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood what was going on. So basically, if we had no brownfield development, what's the point of having a brownfield board?
The thought was, in case something ever came up, the brownfield board would be in place to move on it.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Did you have anything else?
I'm stumped.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, it's true. We have not had brownfield development since we've approved brownfield, but that was the purpose of the Economic Task Force, to promote that development. That was their whole purpose, and now we've done away with it. Saying that their whole purpose was to promote businesses to come here and consider building and creating infrastructure here in Ferrisburgh. That was their whole purpose and the whole thought behind combining the two. And that's, you know, and the Chamber of Commerce thought it was a good idea as well. Elizabeth thought it was a good idea. I just don't see any reason or not to have it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
One of the things I've read about brownfield is that with the most recent revision that they've had is really thrust low-income housing development into brownfield's purview. Okay. Beyond that, I haven't really read where brownfield is being for economic development beyond that. I'll also add this, and that is that when it comes to economic development, I could see a totally separate body because of the fact that there's a lot of other groups within the city that should be represented on true economic development. Someone from planning, someone from ZBA potentially, someone potentially from a consultant from the Chamber of Commerce, ad hoc member, to pick up more of the skill set needed for economic development beyond just what can we do to take property that's been contaminated in the past and redevelop it. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
No, I don't think that any of us are saying that brownfield shouldn't have a part if we have a economic development advisory board, if they shouldn't be a contributor to that board. That being said, I question completely mirroring that board and making it another board. Why can't we have members of other boards in the city that are responsible for economic development also have input within that board? Sure, a brownfield representative could be a part of that board, but why couldn't someone from planning? Or why couldn't someone from zoning? Or why couldn't someone from at-large in the community be a part of that? I struggle with understanding the justification for mirroring brownfield into an economic development board. I don't get the equation. I don't. Is there some parts of brownfield that contribute to economic development within a city? Potentially. But is there a complete mirroring and overlap of the two? I don't believe so.
Well, certainly a path forward would be a work session
I would, yeah, like to see that and discuss it.
so that we could hash this out. Economic development is certainly one of the keys to our most recent master plan review, which we have on the placards from our open house a few weeks back. It's a critical part for the development of Ferrysburg and path forward, and we gotta do it right. Whether it's brownfield EDC or two separate bodies or whatever, but what does everybody feel about having a work session? Sound doable? Aimable with that? Okay. Craig, you have anything else?
Parks and Recreation, pretty self-explanatory. Community confidence and safety, and there we have enhanced city branding, both physically and online. Are we looking to update our website or something different there?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I think our number one priority would be to mitigate that, what is it, fine or whatever from the government for misusing park funds.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Once we get that monkey off our back, we can apply for federal and state grants that we're not eligible for at the current time because of that issue. So I think that should probably be real high on our priority list, because we take care of that issue, we can apply for grants for Coast Guard Park, all the other parks over and above, well, because we can't now. So our money would go twice or three times as far if we applied for a $500,000 grant from the state and we have to match $100,000. That's a whole lot more advantageous than trying to do a $500,000 project on our own. So without that mitigation, we're just spinning our wheels.
Wholeheartedly really need moved up to the.
Has there been any movement on that, Craig?
I got a feeler out right now and I haven't heard back yet.
Thank you.
But it's on the radar. I mean, it's on our city goal sheet.
Yes, yep.
Can I say something, Rick?
Of course.
About the enhanced signage, and that was on the goal. I think, again, that was one of mine. It kind of played into kind of a communication strategy between City Hall and citizens. I've heard a lot of feedback about perhaps a disconnect sometimes with the communication. I think that as a body and probably as a city, we can do more to communicate to citizens. One of the ideas that I had was perhaps looking at replacing our marquee signs, maybe with something digital where we could easily change out the message, communicate with citizens. That's something that I had in mind.
I think that's all I had. Appreciate the comments.
Gary?
Your Honor, just to address Craig, I did have a comment from the owner of Pizza Hut that our sign is on their property. Is that an issue, or is it a right-of-way issue?
We got an easement from Pizza Hut when we
An
installed
easement
it.
issue, yeah, so we have the easement, so.
Yep.
Okay. Or the chief.
Anyone else have anything regarding the work session on city council goals? Nothing. Moving on. Agenda item number 8, public comments. Anyone have anything to add? Seeing none, let's move forward. City reports, city manager.
At the last meeting, there was a comment from a resident who was interested in putting additional speed tables out on North Shore Drive. The city council want to visit that. At the last meeting, city council asked for some information regarding the speed table on North Shore Estates. And we just got back word from the consultant. He doesn't recommend a stop sign be put at that crosswalk. His recommendation would really be to move that speed table where the crosswalk is. So I'll bring some more information to city council on that. I don't know if you want any information on North Shore Drive, or that'd be a subject to talk about it at a later date.
Go ahead.
Did he say why the stop sign was inadvisable?
Yeah, I'll get all that information to you. His thought was during the slow months when the park is not being used, it will give people that use that crosswalk a false sense, and people will just kind of disregard it when they don't see anybody there.
Forward that to us, Greg.
Yep.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes.
So what the consultant's recommendation is to move it from its current location to the crosswalk?
Correct.
Can you give us a cost estimate on that? And
I'll put it on the next agenda because we want to talk about it and whether city council wants to do it. At the last meeting, city council talked about doing a survey of the residents in that area too, whether that speed table gets moved or not. And I was waiting for it to hear from the consultant if we could put a stop sign there and advise the residents that a stop sign was going to be installed or not. But his recommendation is no stop sign with the speed table, so I think it's going to be a city council decision now.
Okay. So you're thinking that we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting?
Correct.
Correct.
I know that would make the residents happy.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Speaking of speed tables real quick, this isn't my report. I do have 2 citizens that I'm going to be meeting with, go out there and observe from their home, one of which Ben Ainsworth, who I have to talk to tomorrow, and go out there and sit and have a cup of coffee and observe. Should be a good thing out.
We look forward to your report on how many speeders you see.
Yeah, thank you. I know he's pretty good with those detailed reports.
What time is that?
Yeah.
When are you doing that?
Well, I'm going to make the arrangements tomorrow with Ben after 1 o'clock. And
Let me
then
know and I'll go by a few times.
Okay. So we'll do
Slow.
that.
Real slow.
Craig, you have anything else to
No,
report?
thank you. I'm all set.
Okay, very good. City council members. Start at Mr. DeWitt.
Craig, this groundwater forum, Ottawa County Resource Commissioner, do we have? Are you attending or Matt?
I have attended a few times. I just haven't gone the last few years. I don't think it's
Nothing we
a
should
long
attend?
day to talk. You know, the city has city water, and we all want clean water, and we do what we can here to get to that end.
So you tell me you're gonna blow it off.
I
That's
think-
all I need to know. Thank you. That's it.
That's it? Mr.
No
Kate?
report. No
No report? Debbie?
Well, as you all know, we had our Easter egg hunt, the Beautification Commission, and we did it in the rain. And I feel that it went very well considering the weather. Everything, kids were happy, everybody was happy. I did get an email from Will suggesting that we serve a hot beverage next year. So I think that's something I'll take back to the Beautification Committee, and so we're ongoing now, looking forward to the 4th of July picnic. End of report.
And you had a good amount of eggs for the amount of people there.
We did, they got a lot of eggs.
Kids left with full bags. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Jerry?
I'd just like to thank the Beautification Committee for a job well done again this year in the Easter egg hunt, so thank you. That's it.
Okay. Jake?
KLH Dunes, Preserve Board met last week. We were introduced to our new intern. I believe her name's Chelsea, is that right?
Joseph.
Something I'd like to see the city look into is potentially finding an intern for the city. I know we've previously had one before. You guys entertain that idea again? Trying to find an intern? Greg?
We've had interns in the past, yeah.
I know you have in
Yeah.
the past, but any plans for one in the future? Near future?
Kind of toying with that idea, yes. Looking
Okay.
into-
Personally, me, I would love to see the city take on an intern. I think you guys could use the help, and I think that it's an invaluable experience for them.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, at the Dunes Preserve Board, we talked a lot about signage. There's an effort going on to replace and refurbish a lot of the signage within the Dunes Preserve, and that was the majority of the meeting, was talking about signage. In the report.
Very good. I just had a couple things real quick. Easter egg hunt, fantastic success, even though it was in the rain. All the kids had a great time. Craig, what's the update with the seawall right now? Where are we sitting?
He was out there working on it Saturday, so he's moving right along. Everything's going smooth. It's going a little slower than what he liked. But when he gets those sheets, I guess, are 20 feet. When he pulls them up on the crane, it's way too much in the wind.
Okay.
He indicated, we walked the project a couple weeks ago with Matt, and going towards the bridge, that seawall there is washing away too. And it's coming underneath the boardwalk, and he said eventually that's going to have to be replaced.
Okay.
And so, in fact, he called me the other day and said, while he's there, he would do another 100 feet for $300 a foot. So we're looking at that, might bring it to city council.
Okay. Very good. Want to talk about planning commission for a minute? Meeting next week. That's not the normal scheduled meeting time. Are we consistent on the website and everything else in terms of getting out the date and time and everything with the time change to the public? The reason I ask is I've had a number of citizens reach out to me, talk about what's on the agenda for next week, and there's some confusion about date and time and everything.
Yeah, it's all straight. Planning commission is meeting on April 16th, which is a Tuesday. We mailed the public hearing notice out Friday, so everybody should be aware that it is within 300 feet of that property, and notice was published in the Tribune on Friday also.
Very good. That's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Oh, wow. Records here.